We're very pleased to welcome A New Vibe, which is a female-led band cultivated in Cleveland, Ohio. A New Vibe strives to bring a God energy through the sweet sounds of hip-hop, neo-soul, and R&B. They aspire to touch listeners' souls with a whole new vibe. So let's give it up for A New Vibe.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Thank you guys so much for having us. It is an honor. This event is amazing. Continue to support projects and events as such, because we need each other to move anything forward. We need a community, we need a village. So This is how villages and communities are started. So just thank you for being. Again, we are A New Vibe. I'm Sade Renee, Honey Monet, and Journey Blue. And Here we go.
Yeah.
You turn it up a little bit.
In this life, sometimes we lose interest. But we still find our gift. Y'all know how this gets.
You know how this thing gets.
Yeah, y'all know. Y'all know how this thing gets.
You know how this thing gets.
I remember when you first fed me this fruit. It was back in 98 while I was in my youth. I was trying to concentrate on what I should do. I never did anticipate the day that they would snooze. She told me to wait so she could choose, but had me get into place where I would lose interest in attendance or graduating school. But don't get me wrong, I knew right all along. There still was a lot going on whenever I was left at home. I had no choice but for me to write a song. I prayed a long time for them to get along. It took a long time for me to write this song. I took my time for me to start the soul. All of these lines that was deep from my soul. Yeah, deep within this microphone. I just wanna
love you all, but I can't give you all of me.
I can't.
Not until I'm free.
Not until I'm free.
Not until I'm free.
I said not until I'm free.
In the past, these nappy roots run deep. I need to go keep growing up. Just promise you won't leave.
We already born into sin, so every day we wake, how we gon' choose
like
to live? We gotta lose the stress to be at our very best. Something I learned a long time ago on that test with no regret. I say that some distance. I always said I promise I won't leave. That never made sense. Still hoping that I can repay them with all my sense. I'm making myself cave in, yet I'm praying that we can make it. I've been straying so I could pave this path I'm taking without the slaving. I'm gon' make it, that ain't no bragging. I'm just saying that I'ma have that faith with no delaying. He been arranging some of this and some of that, and that's a big fact. So there's nothing I need to trade then. No, when God got my back, got my back.
I just wanna love you all.
Yeah.
Love you
but
all.
I can't give you all of me.
Okay.
Not until I'm free.
Not until I'm free.
Not until I'm
I said
free.
not until I'm free.
Buried in the past, these nappy roots run deep. I need to go keep growing up.
I'm growing.
Just promise you won't leave.
He been arranging some of this and some of that. How the universe
like
amazing.
the
Bush,
autumn
Reagan,
tree.
Clinton, and then Trump too, getting they runs their back. And for that big old fact, I got to grow and act. Got my GED and now I lead my class. No force was needed. Showing my diamonds with flaws, no cracks. Pause. Some didn't catch that. Siempre cambiante, always changing like the autumn leaves. When you think I left, I'll be right back in the spring. Regardless of what done happened, I'm still here. Without the landing, I'm still there. That's the objective. Hold on there, be patient. I'm still loading here. Yeah, said I'm still loading here. Yeah. I just wanna
love you all, but I can't give you all of me. Not until I'm free.
Not until I'm free.
Not until I'm
I said
free.
not until I'm free.
Buried in the past, these nappy roots run deep. I need to go keep growing up. Just promise you won't leave. Like the autumn trees.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sometimes you just want to run away from everything, right? It gets
Yeah.
hectic. The doctors ain't listening to you. You feel like and all that. You like
Gotta run away from y'all.
Somewhere in the middle of the cosmos, I'm galactic. Escaping from the present to the future, yeah, I'm trapping it. Escaping it, vaping it. Life is what you make it, it's my canvas, I'm creating it. I'm breaking free from the way I used to be. Changing my perception, only positive energy. Magnifying blessings, I am the currency. I'm floating in and out of space with my God beside me. I don't need no saving grace. Like my chemistry on same frequency. My God got the vibe, I got the vision. That's all we need. Run away
Together from
all the pain,
away from the
flashing lights
where nobody
knows our name. Let's run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name.
Why don't you come and hop up in my car?
Yeah.
I promise I could take you very far. Might even end up among the stars. I could show you who you really are. So let us ascend and love from within, away from all the distractions. Just you and I alone. So let us ascend and love from within, away from all the distractions. Just you and I alone. Let's run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name. Let's run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name.
I gotta run away from all of insanity. Run away from all pain that ain't really hurting me. Run away from hectic scenes. Run away from flashing lights. Run away from crazy nights. For certain it's gonna be alright. I wanna let you know you live more than just a life, and die just one time. So in between all the time, are you living in sublime or in a life that's a lie? I try to sugarcoat in between. It's hard to be so sweet when the world be mean. Government so green. I ain't chasing green. Cost of living been high way before Biden's run, way before Obama's buy. Talking since slave times. I won't run or hide. I'ma live my life when the tide gets rough. Got my rain gear on. I'ma keep it tough. Yeah, I'm on my way. This my big escape. Gotta learn to fall back. No more being off track. I gotta
run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name. Let's run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, run away. 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 Run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name. Let's run away together from all the pain, away from the flashing lights where nobody knows our name.
We got one more for you guys. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you so much.
This one more is our single. It's streaming on our platforms. _ a new vibe _ you can
And
find
it was
us
inspired by
Inner City
Tamir
Gypsy.
Rice, and everything that happened. So many mothers are losing children, and
Yes.
that's what inspired this song. Just being the rose that grew from concrete. You know, you don't have to. You're not your experience. So that's what I like to think
Yeah.
about life. We aren't the things we experience. We're the awareness. So always remember that you are not what's happening to you, and everything is happening for you.
Yes, indeed.
We ready, maestro.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Red light, green light turns blue. That's how you know that after you, another kid gunned down by 12. Why I feel the devil when we're already living in hell? Grandma ain't well, big bro needs bail, and your baby father always in and out of jail. Little kid needs shoes, don't know what to do. Little mama stand still so your soul can heal. Life gets hard, sending us reflections through our scars. Deep inside my mind, morning thoughts. Coffee's on the table. Mirror is God.
I smoke green just to clear my mind. Trying to hide, gotta fly past the pain sometime. But who am I? A rebel with more than one cause. It takes a lot of heart when you inspired to do it all, yeah. The ladder to the top is tall, but baby, I ain't got no ceiling, so stay up out of my business. I'm slaying all of my demons. I'm to the top with my winnings. Hey, so please respect my grind. Life is hard with a depressive mind. You gotta smile though you feeling like a mess inside. You gotta love though you riddled with pain. But please believe you gon' see my name hanging up in lights. I'm shining in gold. I manifest, I bless, don't really care what you told. It may not be easy, but nothing worth having is. I gotta get these dividends to lead to my kids, yeah.
No codependencies, let go of memories. Look deep inside, you'll find a major key.
No codependency, let go of memories. Look deep inside, you find a major key,
Don't
and that's
be fooled.
you.
Life gets hard.
Life gets hard.
Sending us reflections through our scars.
Reflections through our scars.
Deep inside my mind, morning thoughts.
It's more than just thoughts.
Coffee's on the table.
It's on the table, baby.
Yeah.
Mirror is God.
When you know what you know, it won't stop here. When you go with the flow, then it's crystal clear. If we leave it to them, then they'll keep us red. Ain't gotta shake the dice, blessed in abundance, dear. Heard my ancestors yell, reparations near. Seen that part hit the scale, but the weight ain't clear. The film keeps it bold, there's no debating here. I can't breathe, been the latest topic. Yeah, through hoes I see supremacy ain't stopping. No more can it be a village raised assuring. Cause all I see every day is hella pride and hella killing. Time to drop these bars and get about
Don't
my
be
feelings.
fooled.
Dang,
Life gets hard.
life gets hard.
Sending us reflections through our scars.
Reflections through our scars.
Deep inside my mind, morning thoughts.
It's more than just thoughts.
Coffee's on the table.
On the table, baby. Yeah.
Mirror is God. Shout out to my inner city gypsies living in the in-between, going through that mean unseen. Ooh, shout out to my inner city gypsies.
We see you.
Living in the in-between, going through that mean unseen. Oh,
Don't be fooled. Life
Don't
gets
be
hard. Sending us reflections through our scars.
Yes.
Deep inside my mind, morning thoughts. Coffee's on the table. The mirror is God. You have all the control over your destinations,
That's right.
guys. You have all the control that you need. Everything you need, you already have within you. So look inside the mirror. Whenever you feel hopeless, whenever you feel empty and disconnected, just look into the mirror and know that you're whole, you're complete. You have everything you need. Never forget that. We love you.
Peace.
thank you.
All right. Wasn't that wonderful? Yes. So, we're excited to have our final panel session on liberation through education. I just want to give a shout out to our moderator, Janice Eatman Williams, the director of our focus programs, school-based outreach here at the university, a community builder, and a member of our leadership team at the Social Justice Institute. And we are just honored to have you here with us. So thank you, Janice.
Thank you, Mark. It's an honor to be asked to do this. So most people who know me know that I'm an educator. I came to the university as an educator, and I think I'm an even better one since I've been here. So I just want to help set the frame, just take a few minutes to talk to you all. And just gonna start with a few quotes for you to consider. Education means emancipation. It means light and liberty. It means uplifting the soul of man into the glorious light of truth, the light by which men can only be made free. Frederick Douglass. The paradox of education is precisely this, that as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. James Baldwin. Books are a form of political action. Books are knowledge. Books are a reflection. Books change your mind. Lorain, Ohio's own Toni Morrison. And my lifelong personal observation, you shall know the importance of any act by the lengths that others will go to prevent you from engaging in it. That's voting, public peaceful protest, and access to education and critical, accurate information. People have understood since they were brought to these shores that knowledge is power, and the people who created the systems of oppression understood that obtaining it was and yet is today a radical act and a dangerous thing. Knowledge makes us view circumstances and systems through a different lens. Knowledge makes us question. Knowledge makes us know when things are just not right. It was illegal in the Confederacy for enslaved people to learn to read. Many were maimed and even lynched after being discovered. Please remember that. So just know that Ohio, Cleveland, and Northeast Ohio in particular have long been at the forefront of education, and education of Black and marginalized people in particular. In 1836, the first public schools were organized and opened in Cleveland. 10 years later, in 1846, Central High School was opened. It was the first public high school west of the Alleghenies. That's how long we've been at this work. And just know that Central High School was also the place that educated Langston Hughes. And Langston Hughes always said that Cleveland was where he learned to write. The first Black woman in the nation to earn a BA degree, Mary Jane Patterson, did so in 1862 at Oberlin College, which is a mere 35 miles west of here. Harriet Tubman could not read, but she used the lessons that she memorized from the Bible to lead her community out of bondage. She employed those same skills gained as a conductor on the Underground Railroad to serve as a spy for the Union Army, a nurse, and the first woman in history to lead a military expedition. Some of the first institutions formed after emancipation were schools to educate the freedmen and their families. This includes many HBCUs. A lot of them were founded in the 1860s and early 1870s. And Wilberforce in Ohio was the first college in the U.S. established by Black citizens with Black dollars. Know this, Ohio has always been in the forefront of education. Segregated schools in public North, including here, ensued post-Reconstruction in the 1880s. The Black codes and Jim Crow soon followed to control Black movement and Black progress. The Highlander Folk School, the institution for organizer education, was founded in 1832 in Tennessee on land that was donated by a white woman teacher who was involved in the fight for labor and civil rights. It was a training ground for the members of SNCC, including Diane Nash, Dr. Bernard Lafayette, Rosa Parks, James Bevel, Martin Luther King, John Lewis et al., and the place where Ohio's Reverend James Lawson landed after Dr. King spirited him away from Oberlin College and sent him to Tennessee. Again, another Ohio connection. And James Lawson went to undergrad at Baldwin Wallace, be real clear. another Northeast Ohio connection. Brown versus Board of Education case in 1954 was about access more than anything else. And Monica Bell talked about this. White schools had better facilities and properties, new materials, transportation, funding, and resources. Separate was truly not equal. The state of Virginia closed public schools for 5 years rather than desegregate. I'm rolling the history, right? Much closer to known, nationally known Cleveland activist and educator who is a graduate of Western Reserve University was fired for teaching unauthorized curriculum. We're talking Black history. If you know Don Freeman, Don Freeman is 83 years old. So he was fired from Cleveland schools, but he went on to become the executive director of League Park Center. And while at League Park Center, he and his late wife, Miss Norma, went on to establish Communiversity, an Afrocentric education program where he served as director for more than 30 years. Don is still an activist, and when we were talking about, when Derica Purnell talked about some of her fears, she was talking about activists being under surveillance. Don Freeman is still under surveillance, okay? Liberation through education continued through the Black Power movement, Freedom Academies, and those were established nationwide. There was a huge Black Panther Party in Cleveland, and the Freedom Academies still exist here. They are held in Cleveland in the summers, in East Cleveland, Fairfax, and other communities. In recent times, reading clubs have sprung up all over the nation. Most are culturally focused, and lots are honing in on banned books. Toni Morrison is on the banned book list. So is Maya Angelou. So is Angie Thomas, who wrote The Hate U Give. So just know that in recent times, education is being attacked through word, it's being attacked through new laws, it's being attacked through people who are being elected to school boards. And as was mentioned before, Cleveland has not had an elected school board since 1997. We are the only community in the state of Ohio that does not have an elected school board. So these are the challenges that we face today. And to talk about some of the challenges and some of the ways that education are being reimagined, I'd like to invite the following folks to the stage. Shamar Arki, please come up here. Habiba Grimes, and Derek Holyfield. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about these young folks, and then I'll let them have their say. Shamar Arki identifies as an educator, an activist, and an organizer, currently serving as assistant professor in the Department of Africana Studies and as the director of the Center for Pan-African Culture, both at Kent State University. She is an intersectional feminist scholar with expert knowledge and skills to develop, implement, facilitate, and evaluate curricula that promote institutional equity, communication, and access for traditionally marginalized students and their families. And I'll let her talk to you a little bit about her work in Ghana when she speaks. Habiba R. Grimes has made serving Northeast Ohio's most vulnerable children her life's work. She is a sought-after public speaker, community leader, and creator of No Crystal Stair podcast. As CEO of Positive Education Program, PEP, Grimes leads a staff of 450 professionals committed to supporting healing in children who have experienced significant adversity and mental health challenges. Her current focus is providing leadership in support of culturally affirming and healing-centered practices at PEP and in the broader community. And I talked to her about this earlier. If you really want to understand who she is, go on YouTube and listen to her. She's an outstanding poet. And the thing that really, I told her this, the thing that really impacted me so much that I had it on repeat was her tribute to the ancestors. You really need to hear that poem. Derek Holyfield is head of school for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District's Kenneth W. Clement Center's Boys Leadership Academy. He was born and raised in Glenville, and he is proud graduate of Cleveland Metropolitan School District, a proud member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and active in Glenville neighborhood as an advocate for economic, educational, and health opportunities for Cleveland residents. And one of the things that I found out about him is that he intends to open a community learning center in Glenville. And since I'm a resident of Glenville, I'm excited to see this. So these are our panelists for the rest of the afternoon, and I'll start with Shamara, and then we'll work our way.
Hey, y'all. All right, so I know that our conference opened on Thursday evening, and we witnessed a wonderful land acknowledgement. Please allow me to walk in the spirit of my ancestors and allow us to begin with a libation. Okay, it's okay if I stand up, y'all. I feel better if I do that. For the libation. We offer a libation as a prayer of thanksgiving to the Creator for the blessing of the ancestors from Africa, the continent, and the African diaspora. We offer a libation to honor our sister ancestors, dead and gone. We invite them to look upon us and be renewed from the unknowing of their given names, from the dust to which they have returned, and by the legacy of the sacredness of their humanity. We offer a libation in the name of every girl child born of every hue, kissed with the love and divine light, and fearfully and wonderfully made. We offer a libation to honor our great-grandmothers, grandmothers, mothers, aunts, sisters, daughters, granddaughters, sister friends, and daughter friends. We offer a libation for the women who have been part of the freedom struggle, along with Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, Fannie Lou Hamer, Septima Clark, Rosa Parks, Katherine Jackson, Althea Gibson, Angela Davis, and Nina Simone, who taught us that we were young, gifted, and Black. We offer a libation for the girls and women whose names were never known or recorded, for women known as domestics with dreams that made their daughters' dreams come true, and women whose labor helped build a nation from the textile industry all the way to banking. We offer a libation for the women whose lives were destroyed by the hatred of a gun, a lynching tree, a jail cell, and systems that closed down their well-being. We offer a libation of gratitude to all the Black women who understood our beauty, our voices, our sass, our stories, our intelligence, our sadness, our struggles, and our joy. Collectively, may we all say, Ashe. All right, so that's from Teaching Beautiful, Brilliant Black Girls. And that is a text that I had an opportunity to help to curate. And that libation that we just read is the words of the founding vice president for the Office for Diversity, Inclusion, and Equal Opportunity here on campus at Case Western Reserve University, Dr. Marilyn Sanders Mobley. One of the women who I saw working in this work and able to trailblaze and transform institutions like the one we sitting right here in. So as I think about the wonderful opening we had from Janice and education as liberation, Bell Hooks tells us that education is the practice of freedom. So understanding the role of Black women in education in education as an institution, but then also in education as a practice of freedom. When we do our history and we do our work, we'll understand that Black women are often the first teachers in our homes. And when I'm saying women, I'm really expanding that to include women, girls, and femmes, people who may use she or her pronouns. Because independent of how we see ourselves, the world sees Black women a certain way. So independent of how we identify, when we are socialized into being Black women, there are things that come along with that. I'm honored to be here with my panelists. I'm getting ready to pass the mic in a minute. I want to just be real honest with y'all and say that I am fangirling over both my panelists because they are the dopest Black educators in this city. School leaders up here. Like, ask me how I know, right? Okay. Because at one point in time, Habiba and I were moms. We were parents, and our sons attended the same school. And now, actually, my son is a scholar at Kenneth Clement Boyce Leadership Academy. And oh, that is one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. I'm so proud of myself for sending him to that school. But okay, I'm gonna pass the mic. So it's gonna be like a family conversation up here because these is my folks.
Oh, I gotta, yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you, sister friend of mine. Dr. Archie, I'm fangirling as well, so I'm just going to own that. But in this moment, I'm truly honored to just be with you all and in community with you all. I want to thank the sisters who shared song with us prior to getting up here, because I'm sitting here today, y'all, with a heart that is heavy and weighted down by the circumstances that we are continuing to coexist with. Ohio is in a devastating state, and I'm appreciative of Dr. Eatman Williams sharing with us the legacy of Ohio. What we are living with right now is not our inheritance, but it may be our future if we do not rally and resist. So I'm honored and humbled to be here and to represent the education community, because the children that I serve at Positive Education Program, best known as PEP, those children sit on the margins of the margins. They are children who are predominantly Black. They are children who are predominantly living under the horrific conditions of poverty. They are children who've endured transgenerational trauma, and they are children who struggle with learning. And so they are identified with learning disabilities and educational disabilities. And the identities that I hold that keep me in this space, that brought me to it in the first place and kept me there almost 20 years now, are that of daughter, sister, mother, and friend. But for the grace of the Creator, would have needed a level of services like those we provide at PEP. And it is often a mystery to me how I got to sit here, how I get to sit here today, how I get to lead inside an organization because of the inheritance of transgenerational trauma that exists in my family. My brother did not survive that trauma. And so in finding PEP, I found a place that could support young people who, for me, reminded me of my brother, reminded me of my friends, those young people who are deemed bad. They get disinvited to family functions, they get disinvited to church. They get disinvited from every kind of environment you can think of where children are actually supposed to have home, have solace, have peace, have safety. And they've known some of the worst kinds of horrors you can imagine. I'm praying that we won't continue to create and sustain the conditions that cause such high levels of harm. And I'm, in the words of Audre Lorde, as much a casualty as I am a warrior. And so that is my desire today, to share with you what it is that keeps me pushing forward, marching forward. And I also honor that each of you carry a story relative to the education system, and we have to show up to push this system to be what it is that we need so that education can truly be a source of liberation for our children and our people.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Derek Holyfield, and I am extremely excited to be on this stage with these trailblazers here. I joked earlier that I'm just a background dancer up here with them. And so it is an amazing feeling to be able to share a little bit about the Kenneth W. Clement Boys Leadership Academy. I decided to share a few videos with you. I felt that the videos would do a much better job of expressing the work that we're doing. So I'm going to share 3 short clips from our school. One is a promotional video. One is a newscast from Leon Bibb, and the other one is a recent event that we had with our annual Father's Walk. Is a place where young boys are inspired beyond their beliefs. I believe this is a place where parents send their scholars because they know the teachers care. They know that we are using strategies for boys. We know that we are promoting excellence, high academic standards. We're looking for scholars who want to be the best, who feel like they have the potential to do whatever it is that they aspire to be.
The boys, they know what they are going to expect when they get here. There's an expectation. So when they walk through the door, they know what they're going to receive at Kenneth Clement.
From the moment you walk in the morning, you have people saying, oh, good morning, how was your weekend, how was your night, is everything okay? People make sure that everything's okay at home.
If someone is falling and they need help, you pick everybody up and everybody cares for each other.
We are one of 4 single-gender academies, one of 2 all-boys schools, pre-K through 8th grade in the city. We want to make sure that those scholars understand that this is not a boarding school. This is not a reform school. This is a leadership academy, and with that, you have the freedom and opportunities to excel in many different areas. You'll be able to choose electives that are what you want to do.
We're doing something that's very unique, trying to do innovative things, trying to listen to our scholars. What are the needs that they have? And try to address those needs and make them feel like education is fun and exciting.
Some of the huge successes so far is seeing that there's high schools that our 8th grade scholars are being accepted to. We know that our 8th grade scholars are prepared to excel in high school, and we want them to go to the best high schools possible. So we're promoting high academic standards and, again, the high expectations, so they are, really prepared.
I feel like we have teachers who just show more support and just care about us way more. Make sure we're learning, make sure we're not behind, and if we are, then make sure that we're getting back to the target that we need to be on.
This is a place where our arms are open and you can come to us with your problems, and we will try to help you navigate through them by providing a consistent, safe space.
I wasn't how I am now. They have shaped some of my, I would say, problems and impulsivity.
We're making sure that we're using restorative justice practices, but also making sure that our scholars understand their importance and the high expectations that we set are for a reason, and they will help them in the future.
I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I will be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful. I am strong. I deserve the education I get here.
I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. I am somebody.
Start with that video because it really shows one, the level of support that the students actually get at our building. We have scholars who come from all neighborhoods on the east side of Cleveland and surrounding suburbs. We have students from Euclid, Cleveland Heights, South Euclid. We have a family that's coming from Twinsburg to come to our school. And part of our work is making sure that this school is intentional about the design intentional about the offerings that we're providing, and really understanding our population. 98% of our boys are black boys. And so we want to make sure that this space is a safe space that is conducive for their learning, but also one that inspires them to think beyond high school, beyond Cleveland, and beyond college. And so we want to continue to inspire them to think critically and think beyond, again, what this city and what their neighborhoods have to offer right now. I'm going to go ahead into the next video. This video is a part of our Black History Month program where Leon Bibb, who is actually on the board for our school, he actually supported an initiative that is led by our amazing dean, Mr. Ismail Douglas, where we do a wax museum. And so enjoy this next clip.
February is Black History Month, and what better way to learn about it than to live it? And as Leon Bibb tells us, that's exactly what the boys at the Kenneth W. Clement Leadership Academy and Cleveland are doing.
Rarely seen in one place is such a wide-ranging gathering of distinguished people. Wise men of their times are here, telling of themselves.
I am Benjamin Banneker. I was a self-taught mathematician and scientist who lived in the 1700s. I am Thurgood Marshall, and I was the first African-American appointed to the Supreme Court.
Young actors, really. Cleveland boys portraying greats of the past and present at the Kenneth W. Clement Boys Leadership Academy of Cleveland Metropolitan Schools. For Black History Month, the boys are in character of great men.
I am Mansa Musa. I was an emperor of the Mali Empire in the 1300s.
They'll learn that there are many great contributors to the culture and the essence of this country.
So boys 4th to 8th grade have taken on roles. Each has studied a great man who helped make a better world.
So we can know where we came from and our heritage, so we can know how powerful and beautiful we are.
I feel studying historical figures tells us about our culture and our past and how great our Black culture is.
At the Dr. Kenneth W. Clement Boys Leadership Academy, teachers and administrators stress history, as they should. The stories taught are of many people who achieved even in spite of obstacles.
Every young man sitting in this seat was born as a very important individual who can inspire people to do great things. In you, there is greatness.
Whoever said history was old and dusty had it all wrong. You want to see history? Here it is, living.
Schools are more than the 3 R's. In many ways, schools can inspire. The historical figures which speak over the years speak to these youngsters of the present day. And the youngsters listening to those historical figures find a way to unlock the pathways to their own futures.
So I want them to know that success is not far from them, that they have great potential and that they can reach their potential if they work hard.
If only these walls could talk, we say. At Cleveland's Dr. Kenneth W. Clement School, they do. Simply listen and hear the voices from the ages.
My name is Carl B. Stokes, and I was the first African-American mayor in an urban city.
I am James Wilder Johnson, and I created the Black National Anthem.
My name is Barack Obama, and I won the Nobel Peace Prize because of my efforts in my international diplomacy.
For 3 News, I'm Leon Bibb.
Just watching them, a lot of those guys are in high school now. Many of our scholars attend John Hay High School. And I'm going to a graduation, my first graduation of the scholars who started with me, so I'm excited about that. And so that tells part of our work of actually making sure that our boys are learning about their history. We talked a little bit, we heard a little bit about the banned books and how there's an attack on our history and our legacy. And so while I still have the opportunity, I'm going to make sure they learn as much as possible and make sure that I put those books in front of them that will teach them about who they are and where they come from and where they're going. The last video is actually a video again, from our fathers' walk. And that's part of our work, too, is making sure that our fathers understand the importance of their purpose in education and how they have a invitation that is unlimited into our building at any times, and that we expect them to be there. We expect them to read with their sons. We expect them to show up for important events for their sons. And we are so grateful to have many fathers who do just that, and who really look out for their sons, and who really stand up and advocate for their kids. So this is the last video.
That not only do you care about your son and you love your son, but you want to see them continue to grow and you want them to know that you care. So let's give all of our black dads a round of applause. Black dads care.
We gotta now change what's happening in the black community with all this violence. Men can do that. We can stop. Holler at the young brother, because they really need somebody to talk to. Some of them just don't have time. So give yourself a round of applause and make the roof come off the field.
But when I read this book, it made me develop a relationship within myself and with God, to look at myself as a person that my son is going to look up to. He needs to be a mirror image of me.
That's our last video. So shout out to our dads. We had over 80 dads show up to that event. So thank you.
So the theme for this conference is a balm for what ails us. Respect, renew, reimagine. Shamara, you're working across continents to educate especially girls and women to liberation. Derek, you just said that, and you're using history as a teacher because it can help illuminate a path to liberation. Habiba, you want to make sure that we don't create and sustain these systems that limit the path to liberation. And we need to rally and resist. So why don't you all talk about what that resistance could and should look like as we work towards liberation in this generation? And one of the things that we were reminded on Thursday is that this generation includes all of us, not just the ones that are born today. All of us sitting here should be working for liberation. So in this particular panel, we're going to talk about doing it through education. So what does that path look like? What does that resistance look like?
As we talk about resistance in education, I think it's up for us to begin to think about the difference between place and space. So we know physical places, and, you know, loosely speaking, provocatively speaking, I'll probably say that a lot today. These places were designed to kill us. Mm-hmm. Like those of us that identify particularly in multiple marginalized identities. So we have to be intentional about creating space. You know, that sounds like when 2 or 3 are gathered, right? And when we talk about education specifically, we have to believe and practice that classrooms are spaces of radical transformation. So if we want to get free, we have to reposition our relationship to school. It cannot only be a place. It has to be a space that we create. It's a space that we create in our homes. There's a mentor of mine, Dr. Carsania Whitehead, and she has a book called Letters to My Sons. And one of these letters recants her putting her sons through resistance training in the backyard over their spring break. So we have to think about, what is this education for, right? Is it for us to continue to perpetuate these systems? Is it for us to get a job and continue in this capitalistic society? Is this education for us to understand who we are and whose we are, and to identify our role in interrupting the system? So classrooms become spaces of radical transformation. Young people are in relationship with educators. I'm using these words really specifically, not just teachers, right? They're in relationship with educators about historical events and the socio-political context. We've got to begin to create spaces that connect the dots for our young people, or that show them that they've already connected the dots. They just don't have the language because they're stuck in the system of schooling. So they're learning towards the test, right? They're not getting critical thinking. But when we sit down with them and we give them space and opportunity to use that brain, to put it into practice, they can connect the dots. Yep. They understand the story of Emmett Till better than grown people. And they understand how it connects to the story of Tamir Rice. They understand how it connects why his mother wanted to keep the casket open. They understand that through art, right? Through creative engagement, through simulations. So when we talk about education for liberation, we've got to dig a little bit deeper and to think about the tools in which we, how we do education, right? It can't be schooling. Bell Hooks told us that too. There's a difference between schooling and education. So forget about the place. It matters. I'm not saying that it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that. It matters. But what I'm saying is it can't just happen there. And we have to understand what's happening there. So when we understand what's happening at school, for me, that's like fractions. And what type of clouds is those? Like, I don't know much about science. That's what's happening for my children at school, right? But I know that when they come home, I'm going to have to teach them the Emmett Till story because they're not going to learn that at school. Mm-hmm. And I can't let it coming on the TV be their first exposure to it. I have to be the one to take my son to the National American Smithsonian so that he can see people who look like him in a museum, so that he can see, he tells me the story. Well, actually, he told me this story. The last time that we went to the museum, it was right before I had given him a journal, because I just wanted him to begin to, you know, channel his thoughts, right? He was about 8, and so this is his first journal. And when you go into the museum, you go down this elevator, and then you walk into the exhibit. The first exhibit that you see is a story about Oludua Equiano, who was enslaved. He was captured from his homeland. But he keeps a journal. It's one of the first slave journals that we have, in someone's own words who experienced that. And my 8-year-old son read the exhibit and said, oh, he kept a journal too, right? So we have to understand what our role is in getting free. Our role as families, our role as parents, our role as caring adults. I sit here in community with these folks. There's lots of people in the audience who know my sons through being with me or them being involved in the community and my sons participating in community events. So when we think about education, it can't just be about the school. What's our role in helping our people get our freedom?
Whew. So, Dr. Archie, I could just say, ditto and keep it moving, but what I will add is a couple things. The first thing that I do in resistance to the effort to silence the truth about our inheritance in the education space is to speak to the suffering that the education system has caused. Mm-hmm. Be honest about that in the education space, but also for me, given my career in the behavioral health space, is to be honest about the ways in which that sector has caused harm. It means sharing with my colleagues and ensuring that we gain access to knowledge that was denied us during the course of our educations. Mm-hmm. We, as even folks holding secondary degrees and master's degrees and beyond, don't have an accurate account of the history that we inherit that creates the context for the work that we're trying to do. And so we look at the poverty that children are coming to school and enduring, and their families are enduring, and we look at the lack of resources in the public education system, and particularly the urban education system, and we feign a shock of sorts. Oh my goodness, this is so hard to do. I try my best all day, and then the kids go home to that environment, and it's so difficult to try to impart lessons that they will hold on to. Well, you must understand the history of redlining before you offer a critique of the neighborhoods of the children that you're serving. You must understand that the education system for Black children was designed to promote subjugation as opposed to critical thought and them being in the space of scholarship and academia. Mm-hmm. You must understand that Black educators were intentionally diverted from working in the public education system upon the occurrence of integration. You must understand how state report cards replicate redlining. I could go on, mm-hmm. but this is the fund of knowledge that we are lacking as educators, walking into classrooms and seeking to instruct children. And when we struggle or even fail, we turn to the children and we fault them. So resistance for me is equipping educators with a fund of knowledge, and I think broadly about educators in the same way that Dr. Archie does. I'm talking about anyone, from the janitor to the school office manager to the educators in the classroom and their support staff. I want all of them to know the context that we are working within, and that this was designed. Yep. This was the foundation that was laid for us to now go in and do the work. And so when you feel fatigue and burnout and exhaustion, know that that was designed. When you leave for an easier environment, know that that is with intent, that you would feel that level of fatigue and exhaustion and despair. Now, having that as our fund of knowledge, what might we then do? Mm-hmm. So in resistance to the current environment, we make sure the banned books are available. In my organization, I'm like, go. We have a bibliotherapy program. Go. All of them. Write lesson plans and curricula for the bibliotherapy sessions for every single banned book you can find. Until we can't, we will. And when we're told we can't, we'll figure that out too. Mm-hmm. So as a leader in resistance, I am showing up and I literally say to people, I will have your back. Mm-hmm. I will put my licensure as a school psychologist, my seat in this role, on the line for the children to have access to truth. I encourage our educators to seek truth, understand context, and then put in the hands of young people the equipment the tools, the resources that will help them to know the truth. Because the reality of their suffering is that they feel it and don't understand where is this coming from? They are triggered and active. Their stress response systems are activated daily by a predominantly white workforce. And there's confusion about that. What's happening? And there's denial when a child is crying out behaviorally, academically, or literally, you racist white blood, right? And we're shocked. We don't understand the evoking of our stress response systems that's happening based on history. And so the last thing I would say is we equip parents with the knowledge. This hand-wringing that's happening right now over test scores, do not let that deter you from demanding an education system that meets the needs of young people by addressing the root causes of their struggles. Don't fall into that trap, and I worry for our parents that they will get sucked into worrying about test scores and not attack the system that was designed to get the test scores that you see. So that would be my last piece of advisement for resistance, is get into community with parents and equip them too with knowledge and invite the fight out of them, because we have all been lulled to sleep to believe that something's wrong with the children that we serve, not the system that they coexist with.
I'm going to talk about test scores a little bit. I'm glad that both of y'all mentioned that, because I got a call not too long ago that our school received 5 out of 5 stars from the Ohio Department of Education for progress and 5 out of 5 stars for gap closing. And I looked at, well, thank you. But I looked at this, what they expected of our boys, and we nearly doubled it. It was so low. The expectation was low. They didn't expect our boys to meet this minimum requirement, and now we're celebrating because they met this low bar. And I was, there was only around 11 or 12 schools in Cleveland that were public schools that weren't charters that had the 5 out of 5 stars in both those categories. And I thought about it. A lot of schools that did not meet it, their goal is just to meet that low bar. And it really made me think about, the work that we're doing and the constraints that we're doing them within. And part of our work is extremely dangerous. Leadership is dangerous. There's this book, it's called Leadership on the Line. And it talks about how when you're challenging someone else's values, that some of them will do any and everything to keep you quiet. They'll do any and everything to make sure that you don't change what they've worked their whole lives to build up. And when you look at that, they've worked their whole lives to keep us at these low expectations, these low bars, and how we continue to resist in that space. I first think of exposure. I keep bringing that up. I'm thinking about this great initiative that the teachers at my school and I started, where we paired all the young men up in a historically black college across grades. And so now we created this mentorship pipeline where there are 6th, 7th, 8th grade boys who are all a part of Howard University or Central State or Morehouse College, FAMU, or Xavier of Louisiana, and now they're in a weekly competition. That weekly competition, they just want lunch at the end of the week. If they win that competition, we'll start there. But the colleges that consistently win will now have an opportunity to visit all of those historically black colleges in the spring. So we're doing this HBCU tour for our boys because we understand that part of our resistance is making sure that our boys understand the opportunities that exist in this country.
So a few things that I want to say. When I worked for Cleveland Public Schools, my way to educate was to take the students out of the building. And my personal motto is community as cultural classroom. So anytime I left the building, I had young people with me. And Habiba is correct. Everyone needs this information, but everyone can be an educator. And one of the things that I tend to do is I tend to take people to folks' houses who have helped to educate me. Because even though I had two very active parents and an older sister, and my parents were activists, I'm a village-raised child. And so some of those people still in the village. Don Freeman is still in the village. Joan Southgate, who has been raising me since I was 14, is still in the village. So I invite everybody who's sitting here to know who is critical to your village and take, since we're talking about education, liberation through education, don't just take the young folks, take the other folks who need to be at the feet of these folks who are the seats of wisdom that can help liberate you. I invite you to do that. I want to speak to Derek too. One of the reasons I left Cleveland Public Schools is because of the dumbing down of the curriculum and the lack of expectation, especially for Black children. So I invite you all to position yourselves in places and spaces and create your own safe spaces where you can educate the way that it needs to be done, because that's exactly what I had to do. So we do have an opportunity for some questions.
Can I add one thing that I didn't get a chance to add about resistance? I thought about the number of people that I had to tell that Black boys deserve this.
Yes.
For example, paint in my school. When I first got there, I think you've been to that building. It looked like a prison. And I remember asking for paint, and one of the top folks in charge at the time told me that the bricks in the building were historical and they could not be painted. Heard of historical buildings, have not heard of historical bricks. And so part of my resistance was bringing my friends over on the weekend, and we painted the building. I got in trouble, but it was worth it. It was worth it. My families, the students, and people who visited after said it looks so much brighter in here. It's so much nicer in here. Thank you. And so part of our resistance is knowing when it's okay to get in some good trouble.
That's right. That's right. And just know that every place that I've worked has intentionally been an educational institution. And I keep banned books in my office. And when I worked at Harry Davis and I ran the counseling center, I make sure I have a library everywhere I am. And when those young people had to come in and wait to talk to me, they had to read. And they were reading banned books. Now, very few people knew that, but they understood. They understood. So I invite you all to keep materials that you can share and share in community.
I'd like to thank you all for your work and for your presentations today. Feel really encouraged. I have a question that I feel like a couple of you may have a response to, in that you just spoke about the school looking like a prison, right? And so I think there's, within the schooling of Black youth, there has been kind of a conditioning as well. And there's been a lot of talk about, the school to prison pipeline. And it's a particular concern for Black men and young Black boys. And you mentioned restorative practices. as well as like inviting parents into buildings. And so I just wanted to offer anyone who felt the call to speak to it, what do the restorative practices look like in your work? And what are your thoughts on inviting community in to hold this space that is usually given over to carceral systems that impose themselves upon the education of our youth?
I first think about, when you ask that question, I think about a conversation that my dean and I have often. And it's a conversation where a kid may do something and someone will say, you know, what are you going to do about it, right? And my first thought initially is, okay, I wonder, did the teacher do this? I wondered, did the teacher greet that student this morning? Just an example, right? Maybe that student dealt with something at home and was having a rough morning, and the teacher ignored that when he walked in the door. So I put something in place for the teacher to make sure that we have a morning meeting where everyone is checked on. So did you check on them? If no, I'm not punishing the student because the adult didn't do what they were supposed to do. And that's a conversation that we're constantly having. When we think about restorative, sometimes things can be restored in the classroom, okay? I had a student recently, this was last week, a student was not supposed to bring food in the classroom. He brought food in the classroom, the teacher got upset, tried to move the food, and it spilled. The teacher got upset at the student, even though the teacher spilled the food. The student shouldn't have brought the food in the classroom. However, this can be resolved by cleaning the food up. It's not a big deal. And so really helping people understand that our students need to learn a lot of the strategies that we've learned, the coping strategies, the meditation, the mindfulness, all of those things. We have to teach them those things, and we have to make sure that we continue to support their learning. We can't expect students to know everything that we know because they're still learning. They're in the process of still understanding who they are, how to navigate these different spaces. And in my school, we get a lot of students who've been to multiple schools. So they may have had a terrible experience at different schools. Cleveland Public Schools have historically failed black boys. So now we're talking about black parents who have had bad experiences in these schools, who are now not surely 100% trusting that we're going to do a great job with their son. And so there's a lack of trust there. So how do we restore that relationship? So when I think of restorative practice, I think of the relationships with parents. You talked about community as well. There's been experiences where certain community members have not been invited into school spaces and have not been invited to lead certain workshops. So how do we restore that? And so my work is making sure that, again, that my door is open, again, to parents, students, and community members, because the only way that we will be successful is if we're all working together. Collective impact, I think, is one of the things that I value more than anything when I think about building a strong school. And so that's a long answer to your question, but restorative is something that is ongoing. I think it's something that we continue our learning about and making sure that we're not punishing kids for every little thing. That's so important to me. I remember getting in so much trouble in school for small things. And I'm like, come on now. And so really just making sure that they understand it is a safe space and you can mess up in here, and that's okay. But we're gonna make sure that we give you an opportunity to fix your mistake and keep it moving.
Offer that allowing children to be human beings requires that we decenter adult comfort, okay? And white comfort. And my organization has been on the march toward trauma-informed practices for over a decade. And it is still a struggle because the mindset hasn't fully shifted to the work being about the development and well-being of these young people and not your comfort as adults in this work. We choose this work. The children in my care at PEP, they are arriving at school having endured so much, they are lashing out. Their nervous systems are saying, fight like hell. And the adults receive the impact of that. We choose that work. And we have to accept and acknowledge and every day maybe remind ourselves we've made a choice to do this work. And in the reclaiming of those children's humanity, we're going to need to roll with some literal punches sometimes. Then the organization, right, we need a staff care environment that allows for healing and repair, but not the centering of comfort. So I want to offer that. And then the other thing that is on my heart is that our nation has a legacy of torturous treatment of children. It's my belief that the habits of enslaved people's treatment have replicated themselves across systems and across communities and across families. And so that urgency to punish comes up over and over again when we're dealing with young Black children. And there's so little grace and there's so little space. And they're treated like little adults far before they have developed to have the brains of an adult.
That's right.
That has a history. That has an origin. And we need to confront that. And confronting that, I think that we might have greater empathy and capacity for greater empathy. I don't know that we need another framework or system or model.
Right.
We need to acknowledge the humanity of Black children.
That's right.
And not be so quick to recreate the conditions outside of the school. They need the real world. What I tell my colleagues about the real world is that it killed my brother, who lived with mental health challenges from childhood and was a Black man. That's not the environment I'm preparing children for. So y'all can have the real world. I'm preparing children for the world I desire them to live in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just quickly want to add that Habiba pointed out that, developmentally, they're not adults, young people, but they're treated like that. And the school system does that too. It says at 18, you're a legal adult. So when they come into higher ed, we have to continue this. So when they come to my office, I have an altar that's there for them to engage with. It has a selenite wand, an amethyst point, a clear quartz. It also has some stones with some words and some emotions, right? Because we know that, social emotional learning is last on the list in schools, all schools, public, private, you name it. And so thinking about restorative, right? Restoring them not necessarily from the thing that they've done, restoring them back to who they are, giving them an opportunity to engage on a spiritual level, on an emotional level, to deal with whatever they're dealing with physically. So thinking about restoration in that, so restoring them back to their original selves, but then also recognizing that it cannot stop at 18.
I just want to say I want to challenge the so-called adults in the room a little bit. One of the things that I spend a lot of time on with folks, because we work in neighborhood every day. And if there are students here, you all know this is an urban campus without urban people. So you need some tools before you go into spaces with and I'm saying our because I'm a Black child, our children, and spend a lot of time on the developmental stages of youth, because a kid is a kid is a kid. This is a child. There are certain things that children do that all children do, but Black and brown children in particular, when they do these regular things, are labeled for them. And if you do not value Black and brown youth, then you shouldn't be working with them. And I have had this conversation when I work with Cleveland Public Schools. I had this conversation with so-called educators and with my principal. I said, you need to encourage that person to retire because they should not be here. You know, the longer they stay, the more harm that they do. So it's important who is in front of children. It really is. And when all of my work is school-based, the majority of it is school-based. And when I go into these buildings, you know, a lot of people are getting their salaries by doing harm to our kids. And they're in Cleveland system because it pays well. They can retire well, but they don't value our children. So we who care about kids have the power. Power concedes nothing without a demand. We have the power to demand that people who really care about our kids be in front of our kids. And I understand and I honor this, that if adults have had a poor experience in a school system, then it's real hard for them to go in some cases advocate for their children, but just know that they want the best for their children. I haven't talked to a parent that doesn't want the best for their children, but these are things that we need to do. And you know, that's part of our resistance too. Michelle?
I want to echo Josiah's just gratitude for having the three of you here to talk to us about all these issues and to be in the space. And I have two questions. One is, I'm a writer, I'm a poet and a teacher, and I wonder if you can speak to how the use of art, making art, creating, can help to better some of these situations that our kids are encountering in school. I know I worked for Upward Bound at Baldwin-Wallace, and I was English, I was language arts. But one of the ways that I got my kids to read and write was I was like, okay, we're gonna have an anthology. Everybody has to write a poem. And they heard poetry and they're like, oh my God, you know, but I was like, you know, so the summer before that, we had done Shakespeare, all the things that line up with the testing. And it wasn't working. And so I was like, okay, we're gonna do something that I feel like they can sort of insert themselves into, see themselves into, something that exercises all the same muscles, but is creative and artistic. Showed them some YouTube videos of people doing spoken word. They got to see Black people, you know, LGBTQ people, young people, all of that. And then I was like, all right, let's write. And we got a different theme every week. And by the end of it, we had an anthology, and we also had people who had an expanded vocabulary and things like that. So I wonder about that art. And then the second thing that I want to say, and this is it's a pet peeve of mine, is whenever we talk about Black children in peril, we really talk a lot about boys, and we don't sort of balance the conversation and talk about girls. And I do understand why we talk about boys, but I am the mother of one female-bodied person, and I don't believe that I have any less stress or concern or anxiety or dread or fear or terror than any other parent of any other Black child. So what is the sort of balance in the conversation about our kids? You know, I believe that Black boys deserve spaces like that, havens, all of that. But what's the other side of that conversation for the female-bodied children who are also in, I don't think, much less danger, and also have more specific things when we talk about reproductive justice and all those things that they're dealing with at the very same time that they're trying to grow up and get educated?
For the art question, I'll just say art saved my life. I graduated from the Cleveland School of the Arts, and I think about how poetry and acting really gave me the first space to express what I was dealing with growing up in the Glenville neighborhood, and some of the traumas that I've experienced, and being able to relate to other people. So I believe art is everything, and I know I would not be on this stage or leading a school if it wasn't for art. And so I also think about my friends who were not able to graduate with me, and comparing the paths that many of them took without art in their lives, I think demonstrates the need for it to be available any and everywhere. Well, no, that's I thought that you all may be able to help with that one, but You know, honestly, when I was a teacher, I thought about, I taught 6th, 7th, 8th grade and a little bit of 9th grade English and reading, and the students who really excelled in my class were the young women, and I thought about the strategies that I was taught and how they kind of centered around how girls learned. And so a lot of my work now is how to kind of think about how I'm making sure that I'm being equitable on the other side. As a black male teacher, the young ladies in my class are actually in college. Many of them are in college. And so I think when I became the principal of an all-boys school, it was a calling from God, because I truly did not know that there was a difference in learning for boys and girls. And so there is a space. I think there's a law that if there's a single gender school in the city, that it has to be one for both boys and girls. So there are single gender schools for young ladies in the city of Cleveland. But I echo what you're saying as far as that conversation, and I think that I'll pass it over now.
Thank you for letting me put you on the spot like that. I think your voice is essential as we think about the future of girls. In reference to the arts, Michelle, thank you. They are essential, and I get energized about it because I've done some deep study about trauma and its neurological impact, its developmental impact. And one of the primary ways we self-regulate the nervous system is through repetitive, rhythmic experiences, and we can cultivate relationships of safety and care without any words, just in this relationship of rhythm and pattern and repetitive experiences and movement. So I am a huge advocate inside my organization and beyond it for the healing power of the arts, for the power that represents, especially for Black children, and I'll offer to Indigenous children, who part of their systemic destruction was displacement from the languages and art forms, the experiences of rhythm and repetition that were our true inheritance. So we have to recreate and reclaim, and we have done that. And so through those art forms that have formed in this environment here on Turtle Island and in the diaspora, we have created routines of healing, rituals for healing, experiences for healing, and many of them are art-based. So thank you for creating that experience for your youth. Thank you for seeing, like, this is not gonna work with this man over here. I'm gonna move it to a space where they can connect, and then watching them flower, because that, I think, is our potential power. Culturally responsive and respectful art activities, I think, are everything. In regard to girls, thank you for lifting up the girls. What I will say is that the same systems and structures that have been used to oppress and destroy Black boys are replicated in the lives of Black girls, especially Black girls who show up on fire, right? Mm-hmm. Feeling the oppression and embodied with the oppression and pushing back, they get pushed out. And so there is a book, and I'm imagining Dr. Arki and her scholarship can actually speak more intentionally about that. But I will just say that those systems, we must destroy them to save both boys and girls, because they are designed to do the same thing for both. And as a mother to 2 Black boys, one of the things that I'm on fire to do is prevent them from experiencing harm and violence, because when they embody that, guess who they take that out on? Mm-hmm. And so that is an inheritance in my family that I am being intentional to disrupt. The violence that Black men have embodied through their racialized trauma, and then inflicted that on their partners, their female partners and children. So I am seeking to raise boys who have not been injured by the education system or the re-traumatization of our household dynamic, so that they can show up in the world healed and safe and whole for relationship to girls and femmes and women-bodied people, so that they are healthy and safe for them.
Shay, I pray that same prayer for my boys. Thank you. Thank you for articulating it in that way. Just to say this, you asking us, but you doing it with the receipts. I just want to say that I'm seeing you. You laid it out, right? You had you're doing your own work, so you were able to show up in that space, build relationships with your students, understand that what was intended for them to get was not in the curriculum. You took it upon yourself, educator, right, to flip the classroom and make it make sense to them. Historical perspective, socio-political context. And the results is the student, right? Not even what they produce. The fact that they're here, ready to engage, retaining information, critically thinking. That's the result. And the anthology, like I love the anthologies, right? So yes, I work at Kent State University in Africana Studies. That department was founded by student protest, right? Students speaking back to systems and institutions. In the building that we have, it's named after Oscar Ritchie, who was the first Black person to get a PhD and teach in the Ohio State University system. In that building, we have a full theater, front of the house, back of the house, workshop, all of it seats 200 folks. We have another lecture hall that seats 200 folks. We have a multi-purpose room which can be flipped and turned for various events. We have a dark room, like, okay, I know no one's really taking pictures that much anymore, but there's a dark room. And then there's also the Ombaji Art Gallery. So a white box creative gallery space. And these spaces are for our students because we know this. When our backs are against the wall, we create to get out of it. We have created culture. We have created popular culture. International popular culture has stemmed from Black people trying to figure it out. Trying to really survive and not even getting to the point of thriving. I really appreciate you bringing this to the floor about the disparity in boys and girls. So the book on the bottom of the stack is The White Woman's Guide to Teaching Black Boys. That was the first book in the series, and it was written probably about 10 years ago in the height of the Closing the Achievement Gap. You know, we had a Black man as president, so, you know, there was lots of dollars and lots of attention that's giving to boys in education, like Closing the Achievement Gap here locally. So for a long time, so I actually contributed to that first text, and it really focused on white women, who we know are 86% of the teaching force. White female college grads show up in classrooms more than anyone else. So it's focused on them and their pedagogy, right, is what you described, how you're running your classroom, your learning environment. And then it's stories of Black boys. And so the next time we did this, we said, well, let's amplify the voice of the student. And so Teaching Beautiful, Brilliant Black Girls was born out of that work, but builds on a Black, feminist pedagogy, right? So understanding that while everyone doesn't have to identify as Black or as feminist, there are some things that those of us who do identify that way can show you. And you can pick it up, and you can put a hashtag in front of it, and you can be a Black, feminist too. But understanding that work, particularly through the work of Kimberly Crenshaw and intersectionality and the hashtag Say Her Name movement. I encourage all of you to look up that work. Intersectionality is a big buzzword, but Professor Crenshaw is the one who gave it to us through her scholarship in legal studies, because she looked at a case and saw where the law protected people who identified as male and the law protected people who identified as Black. But when it came to someone who identified as a Black woman, there was a huge gap. And so we identified that as a site for new interruption. So taking on these principles, living in these oppressed identities, gives us an opportunity to share out those best things and to create, again, those classrooms as spaces of radical transformation.
So why don't we say thank you to our panelists? And I hope you all can hang around for a few minutes? Okay.
May I just really quickly, folks, I have to say, as you engage in resistance, please connect with Honesty for Ohio Education. I opened up my comments on the importance of resistance in Ohio right now, today. It is real. Please engage with that work.
I just need to say to those of you who have been here since Thursday night with some of the rest of us, we are like rounding home. And I am so grateful to all of you for being here for the full day with us, popping in when you can. And we're gonna close out our time together with something that is really helpful to me as I try to heal and ground myself over the last couple of years with everything that has been happening. Oh, wow. I've seen the back of your head all day and did not realize that was you. Your eyes raised up. Josiah's wife. That's so terrible. Michelle, I couldn't remember your name. Didn't we go to high school together? Okay, never mind. I'll tell you later. I've seen you around the back of you, and then I just saw your face. Anyway, this meditation, I hope is as helpful to you as meditation has become for me in my life. We have with us this afternoon to lead it, Denise Ann Sumbry. She's a spiritual growth advisor helping women embody luminous living. She absolutely delicately weaves the realms of spiritual development and personal growth harmoniously through the art of energy, healing, coaching, and positive psychology. Sumbry is also Chief Energy Officer and Reiki Master Teacher, ask me how I know, of Positive Life Haven, a multicultural healing arts and learning oasis serving the collective need for restorative wellness and purposeful evolution. The Haven offers one-on-one Reiki healing sessions and certification, coaching, massage therapy, multi-modality gatherings, and the Haven Boutique to shop for well-being essentials. It is through the generosity of Denise that you all have those stones that were out on the table, the crystals that you could take, and the crystals on these tables. We are grateful to have you with us this afternoon, Denise, and I'm going to turn it over to you. You can give whatever direction you need to in terms of the space. Okay, thank you. Let's welcome her, please.
Wow, what a beautiful communion with each other over the last couple of days. I'm sure that everyone agrees that some seeds have been planted. Things have begun to germinate and fan the flames of momentum. I know in spaces like this, sometimes once we leave, we have to really be intentional and dedicated to ensuring that we follow through, right? What has been activated, what has stirred within. Because once we walk out these doors, right, life is happening. So I just want to speak just a little bit about personal liberation through the lens of and this is just a phrase that just kept coming to me while I was in this space today, of coming back home to self. Coming back home to self. And when I think about that, even with my practice and what I help others, it is a daily intentional act or practice of self-prioritization and basking in your sovereignty. And that is something that you have to be intentional with. That is something that you have to create space for. Outside of your to-do lists, outside of even our community, our homes, our families. You know, someone mentioned like a lot of the buzzwords. You know, we hear mindfulness, we hear meditation. rest, restoration, self-care, and that's all well. However, I ask you to perhaps consider that lens of what it means for you to come back home to self every day. My recommendation is always touching base every morning, perhaps even coming back home to self during your busy day, and absolutely concluding your day, coming back home to self. Coming back home to self is finding your own natural rhythm, and that was a term, a synergy that I heard earlier as well, and creating space for your own personal connection and intimacy with self. As leaders in your community, your homes, your organizations, it's second nature for us to be in that space for others. And sometimes for ourselves, it's the last poured out of the cup. And so coming back home to self, what I've realized in my practices is there's this beautiful synergy with our past self, which coming back home to self helps to invoke that healing that we speak of, past self, the healing of past generations and our ancestors. But also coming back home to self as far as the alignment, cultivating alignment with our present self, right? In our day-to-day. And coming back home to self, activating your future self. And this is a trio that is always simultaneously flowing in and through you. Past experience, present moment, and even desires of the future. So at this time, I would love to guide you through just a very simple practice in this here and now of coming back to self, utilizing just simply what you have with you today, right? Coming back home to self doesn't have to have tools, although those are nice. But when we're short on time, when we have mind chatter, when perhaps there may even be a little fear, right? Communing with self in that capacity. My recommendation is always just beginning with breath. And so at this time, if it's comfortable for you, I will have you get comfortable in your seat. And again, if it's comfortable for you, just gently closing your eyes. And just taking a moment here to just connect to your natural rhythmic breath. There's no need to manipulate your breath. Just begin to take notice of each inhale and exhale. And as you do that, you may notice perhaps where there is some tension or uncomfortability in your body, and that's okay. No judgment, no critique. You may take notice of the rise of your belly and the fall. As you breathe, you may even notice the rise of your shoulders. And as you exhale, just simply further settling into the comfort of your breath. You may take notice of how natural, deep, or shallow your breath is. You may even begin to connect and feel to your natural heartbeat in this moment. And bringing your awareness to the soles of your feet, planted and rooted beneath you. Feeling the support that where you're seated offers. Perhaps even feeling the warmth and comfort of your jacket, your hoodie, your shirt. Bringing awareness to not only what you feel, but also what you hear. The sound of my voice. The buzzing of the electrical units within the space. Perhaps even the subtle chatter outside of these walls. And bringing your awareness, if possible, to perhaps any scents that you smell as you breathe in, whether the softness of perhaps your perfume or cologne, the natural aroma in this space. And then even just communing of what perhaps you see. If your eyes are still open, just basking in the visuals in front of you. Or if your eyes are closed, what your mind's eye. And then bringing your awareness to your belly, the center of emotion, innovation, creativity, and just take notice to how that space feels for you. And then bringing your awareness to your heart. And taking a few natural breaths there to connect. And if you feel led, bringing palm to heart, palm to belly. And continuing to breathe there. And I invite you at this time to connect with perhaps one message that you heard today, inspired action that is brewing, or simply just how you feel, and connecting with that. Allowing that intent to seal. So when you walk out of this door, it's there, activated and continuing to flow in and through and out of you. And I offer in this closing beautiful affirmation or mantra, I am home. I am home. I am home. And as it is aligned for you and comfortable for you and your own pace, taking at this time a nice deep breath in, feeling that belly, and gently allowing that breath to release. Breathing in deep, holding at its peak, and release. And one more nice deep breath in. And this time gently opening your mouth and allowing that breath to flow. Returning back to your natural breath. And when you're ready, only when you're ready, gently opening your eyes. And just taking a moment to how you feel. And remembering coming back home to self. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a wonderful way to end our time together. It would be inappropriate to end this fifth biennial Social Justice Institute without doing one more thing. Samantha Coco, will you come up?
Just pretend like you're at a theater. Come on. She looks it. So for the panelists who remain here, you all know you've gotten so much information, detail, communication, follow through, support from Samantha. We've spent, since the middle of the summer, the beginning of the summer, whiteboarding all of the things that could pop into Aisha's head. Right?
Literally.
And she hung in there with me, you know, and really has been a thought partner with us. Her title is administrative coordinator, but she's so much more than that. And so it's my understanding that Jill, our postdoc fellow, helped Mark pick out a special gift for you. And so this is for you, from us, for all of the work.
Clarence Doritos.
You can, after the months of planning and coordinating this, you now get to breathe tomorrow and eat you some chips, apparently. Tonight. Okay. All right. So please join Mark and I in thanking Samantha for everything she did to make this happen. We don't have enough time to do it.
The only thing I would just add is that all these amazing graphics, it's not in her title, but she's a graphic designer as well. So all of the wonderful program, just amazing things you did. We had an 85-point Q2Q checklist. I think we're through, right? We've got about maybe one more. Is there? Okay, so thank you, Sam, and thank all of you for coming, and look forward to hearing from you in the future. We'll give you some ways of giving us feedback. We'll put resources from all the panelists on our website, and if you're not on our newsletter, be sure you sign up because we want to stay in touch with you. And so thank you all.